Not saying Okay. Okay, thanks everyone. I'd like to call the regular city commission meeting of May 20th, 2025 to order and ask all of you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, Mayor Pro Tem Olsman.
Present.
Commissioner Rozelle.
Present.
Commissioner Elder.
Present.
Commissioner Steinhardt.
Present.
Mayor Paul present. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have no communications. Elected officials. Don't see any elected officials, so we'll move on to proclamations. We do have a couple of proclamations this evening. First one is Mental Health Awareness Month for May of 2025. Whereas mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being, it affects how we think, feel, and act. It also affects how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. And whereas mental health is important for our individual well-being and vitality, as well as that of our families, communities, and businesses. And whereas nearly 1 in 5 American adults will have a diagnosable mental health condition in any given year, and more than 42.5 million U.S. adults live with anxiety disorder, the most common mental health condition in America. Whereas May 1st through May 31st, 2025 is recognized as Mental Health Awareness Month. Mental Health America 2025's theme is Turn Awareness into Action, which celebrates the progress we've made in recognizing the importance of mental health and provides challenges to turn understanding into meaningful steps towards change. And whereas Oakland County Health Network, the OCHN, joins our national partners in promoting this year's Turn Awareness into Action campaign. And whereas mental health management ensures that individuals can focus on their abilities to live, work, learn, and fully participate and contribute to our society while promoting diversity, inclusion, and acceptance. And whereas improved systems of care for vulnerable populations, access to non-emergent and crisis services, advanced integrated physical and behavioral health care, along with provider relations, help to fortify services coordinated by OCHN. And whereas OCHN is its service provider agencies are committed to inspiring hope, empowering people, and strengthening communities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Huntington Woods hereby recognizes May 2025 as Mental Health Awareness Month. OCHN calls upon our citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, faith-based organizations, and schools to recommit our state to increasing awareness and understanding of mental illness and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental illnesses to promote recovery and a higher quality of life. Our second proclamation is declaring the first Friday in June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day. This proclamation declares that the first Friday in June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the City of Huntington Woods, to honor and remember all victims and survivors of gun violence, and to declare that we as a country must do more to reduce gun violence. Whereas in an average year, 44,341 people die by guns, a rate of 13.3 deaths per 100,000 people. And whereas Americans are 26 times more likely to die by gun homicide than people in other high-income countries. And whereas, on average, Michigan has 1,406 gun deaths every year, which is a rate of 14.0 deaths per 100,000 people. Michigan has the 28th highest rate of gun deaths in the U.S. And whereas gun homicides and assaults are concentrated in cities, with more than half of all firearm-related gun deaths in the nation occurring in 127 cities. Whereas cities across the nation, including in Huntington Woods, are working to end the senseless violence with evidence-based solutions. And whereas protecting public safety in the communities they serve is the mayor's highest responsibility. And whereas support of the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from people with dangerous histories. And whereas mayors and law enforcement officers know that their communities best, are the most familiar with the local criminal activity and how to address it, and we are best positioned to understand how to keep their citizens safe. And whereas January 2023, Aya Pendleton was tragically shot and killed at the age of 15, and whereas the Wear Orange campaign was inspired by a group of Heidi's friends who asked their classmates to commemorate her life by wearing orange. They choose this color because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters when out in the woods, and orange is a color that symbolizes the value of human life. Whereas anyone can join this campaign by pledging to wear orange on June 6th, the first Friday in June in 2025, to help raise awareness about gun violence. And whereas by wearing orange on June 6, 2025, Americans will raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives of gun violence victims and survivors. Whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our citizens and children safe. Now, therefore, be it resolved, Mayor Paul of the City of Huntington Woods declares the first Friday in June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day. I encourage all citizens to support their local communities' efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to honor and value human lives. Proclaim this 20th day of May, 2025. Add any comments? Anyone?
Two things. One, how do you get a proclamation put forward?
Okay, I was asking for comments relating to this proclamation.
Okay, to that one, yes. I think it would be quite appropriate to declare today, stand up? You don't stand up? To declare today, May 20th, the murder of George Floyd as part of the proclamation, and also to raise the names of the people that were killed by the gun violent person in Atlanta that killed 7 Asian Americans, because it's easier to talk about generalizations and never name names. And lastly,
Okay, sir, if you want to save those comments for public comment, that's fine.
So my second
It says nothing to do with this proclamation.
It doesn't?
No.
It's about gun violence out of the hands. I want to keep the guns out of the
You can,
hands of
you
people.
can speak under public
Whatever you say,
participation.
because you're the boss.
Thank you.
So I do have a comment regarding that proclamation. So good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Laura Gombieski. On behalf of Moms Demand Action, myself and other community members, I want to sincerely thank you for recognizing June 6th as Wear Orange Day here in Huntington Woods. Your support brings critical awareness to the issue of gun violence, honors the lives it affects. The proclamation is a meaningful step that shows Huntington Woods is a community that values safety, remembrance, and action. So thank you for standing with us.
You were going to have some ribbons available, correct? I wanted you to mention that.
Yes, so on that day, on June 6th, we will have orange ribbons available and some more information at the City Hall and in the library and hopefully a recreation center. We'll be getting those items together tomorrow and be working with the city manager to being able to provide those throughout the community on that day, in addition to just encouraging everyone at home to wear orange, even if you're sitting on a Zoom call or whatever it is you do out that day, please, in remembrance and action. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your efforts on raising awareness. Public participation. This is now an opportunity to speak to an item that is not on the agenda. If you have something, please come forward.
Yes, thank you. My name is Jan Weiss Demps. I live at 10804 Lincoln in Huntington Woods. Been a resident of Huntington Woods for 28 years. I love this community. I'm here today because I'm very concerned about when we get a large amount of rain in the city, our home, about half of our lawn, backyard completely floods and looks like a lake. We have ducks, and it takes a very long time for the water to come down. The house behind us is elevated higher than our property line, and water flows down. On the two sides of me, the houses behind them do not have that elevation, and they do not flood. You know, right now, it seems to be somewhat manageable, but as we get more and more rain, I'm very concerned. I've lived through the 2014 floods, and I'm very concerned about the water and what the city is doing about it, because I realize that I am certainly not alone in this, that there are a lot of people in the community who are battling this whenever there are large amounts of rain. And when we have to turn around to sell our homes, we know that we have to disclose this, and this affects, I believe, property values. And I just wanted to make people aware, and hopefully the city has a plan to address this. Thank you.
Put your address and your name.
Okay. I just wanted to add that when homes are when you are approved on the building and codes, I know there's a code that says the hose is behind and around a house should not be higher than the house that's sitting there. But I don't feel that's really being, as we get more and more new houses in the city and bigger homes, I think we're stressing that situation, and I want to encourage that people respect and obey that code and do not put other residents in jeopardy.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission. I also want to speak about the stormwater issue. My wife and I moved to Huntington Woods 3 years ago. We reside at 10435 Vernon Avenue. This is our third summer, and we've had water issues every year. A week after we moved in, a couple of comments and a question. A week after we moved in, I spoke to a neighbor right across the street. And I asked him, I love the history of Huntington Woods. It's beautiful, very historic. I asked my neighbor if he had any history about the home that we purchased. And he said, no, I do not have any history about your home. And he said, the only thing I can tell you is that your previous owner spent a lot of time, many days, squeegeeing out his garage. That was a red flag, and not only a red flag, but a shot over my bow. I realized we had pretty bad water issues at that point, a weekend from owning the home. I called a vendor that I believe the city is very familiar with the very next week, Great Lakes Landscaping. And I think you guys, and ladies and gentlemen, know Great Lakes. I believe they do some work here in the woods. I talked to a gentleman called Steve Rice, and he told me, well, he nodded when I mentioned my water issue. And he nodded and said that Vernon Avenue was notorious for stormwater issues. That was the first I'd ever heard of it. It was not disclosed when I purchased a home. And so I was pretty upset about that to begin with. And then a few weeks later, after being in the home for about a month, I realized that 2 houses away from me in 10455, a basketball court had been built. Non-permeable basketball court that sheds water directly onto my neighbor's property and then floods my property. I understood then that it was common knowledge that Vernon Avenue had issues. And how could a permit have been given for a non-permeable area the size that what is there, 50 feet off my property line and 5 feet off my neighbor's, which we're both lower than 10455. We need some relief, and we need relief badly. My last comment is during the spring thaw, the ground was totally saturated, and we had a over 2-inch rainfall, 2.28 according to the rain gauges in the area, and I pumped 4,700 gallons of water off my backyard. I get 5 gallons a minute. It took me 18 hours to disperse the water. I no longer have water in my garage. I spent $14,000, so I don't have water in my garage. But this is not a fix. This is just a Band-Aid. We need relief, and we would really appreciate any help, any thoughts, anything that you can do to help us out. We pay our taxes and our property, as the lady beside me just said. If we disclose it, we're in trouble, and we have to disclose it. So we have to be honest, and it's a problem. So thank you very much. I'll write down my name.
Please.
Thank you again, guys.
Thank you.
I'd like to talk about similar matter. So I'm Alan Droz, I live at 10525 Kingston Avenue. And the city did, after our storm, we all paid for road work, and that alleviated a lot of the problems on the street. But the backyard was an issue for me at least 3 times last year, where I had to pump water out, and then the thaw, probably a similar day that this gentleman was talking about. So one of the things that I found after I was walking around, that my neighbor on LaSalle, not directly behind me, but to the east of me, was running his rainwater off of his garage into my backyard. So he apologized, and we took care of it. So it's something we don't need the city involved in that. The guy behind me's house is above me, and he has a little trench at the bottom, and his water goes through our common fence, and he's working with me also to alleviate that. So I guess I don't know what the other circumstances are with these other 2 people, but I think one of the things that we have to take a look at is really how are homes graded, and how are they going to affect their neighbors, and how do we deal with that? Because the burden can end up with one person. Every one of you could have that problem if your house is lower than the guy behind you. So it happened just one time. I put rain barrels in my backyard because I just put some gutters in my garage, and that's collected some of the water. But when I had that first storm, and I had to work for about 12 hours to get the water out of my yard with these little pumps, it's a lot of work, and it's scary because you don't know how often it's going to happen. Fortunately, since the guy's redirected his gutters, I haven't had a problem since the rains. But something that we have to look at in terms of, being good neighbors and not dealing with those problems and making people more aware of how they're affecting their neighbors if their neighbors are at a lower level than they are. So that's my comment.
Thank you.
I think we have to follow the code that the city has, which states that a property being built should not be higher than the houses around it. And that's not being followed, and that's part of the problem. That's the problem I have. And they put an AstroTurf, which doesn't, and I was told plant arborvitae, but all their arborvitae is dying because it's flooding out. So we need a better solution.
Thank you for sticking with us during that interruption. Continuing with public participation. Go ahead, Rob.
Rob Hurley, 10514 Borkman. This is changing gears pretty hard, but I just want to tell the board that on our public access cable channel, you broadcast the meetings for City Council and Parks and Rec and everything else from 2023. So I'm asking kindly, please update the calendar. It's 2025. I mean, they're completely off. So I wanted to watch a meeting tonight and I saw the public access channel and it was like from 2023.
Okay.
It's the last time anyone watched a meeting, Mr. Hurley.
Well, I'm just, my lovely stand-up Kim, she will not. We'd like to come up here, and this is great, public participation, all that, but if you want to watch, you can't because you don't know what date it is. And I'm a past Huntington Woods Men's Club president, so I keep an eye on this stuff. So anyways, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't want to duplicate too much, but I agree with everything that's been said in terms of management of stormwater. I want to remind the commission that you do have a 2018 study by Don Carpenter that lays out in detail what the city should be doing, how much stormwater management it would reduce the runoff, how much it would cost, and you've never, as far as I can tell, implemented that plan. Even though Eagle is providing funding for some cities to do all sorts of things like this. So that's a puzzle. Equally puzzling, and I think it's been reinforced here, is that the city doesn't seem to enforce its ordinance. You have an ordinance that says people cannot raise the elevation of their property above the elevation of their neighbor's property and flood their backyards and cost them thousands of dollars to try to fix. And yet this is not enforced in any serious way. You will hear countless stories, if we had the time, of people whose frustration that you will hear in terms of their ability to get the city staff to do something about the problem. Simply enforce a very common sense ordinance. Thank you. Hal Stack, 13108.
Al Bogdan over on 10794 Elgin. We've been in the house since '94, and when we moved in, the flooding was, not there really. And I found out that our neighbor had a system that drained the water to the sewer. When the sewers got redone, that was gone. Our backyard was going under a foot of water, third of the backyard, going into the neighbor's yards, up the block. I have photos of a giant pond in the back of the yard. We ended up tearing the garage down because it was in that spot. And so I'm not really sure whether you have plans for things like that. And to make sure that, the flooding is not dependent on someone else's system to drain it. Because when I came to the city and talked to the city originally, they just said, dig a swimming pool hole and fill it with rocks where the garage used to be. That'll drain the water. And then they said, or you can put in some kind of sump pump system that would spray the water out into the street. So we basically just gave up on that. But that was our story, so I'm going to leave that with you.
Well, I can't resist the theme tonight. You know, on that same note of water, my best pumping was 15,000 gallons from my backyard. And the problems that we have is that structures are permitted with potential drip edges, and years later, a homeowner decides to put on a new downspout wherever they want. So that's one problem. Another problem is you guys are permitting driveways, and I don't know what the permits look like now, but sometimes they'll say, oh, same footprint. Well, a driveway can disperse as much water as a house. So if you're not asking which way that driveway sloped, where's the break point to the front, to the back, does that driveway go back to a garage that's set at the minimal distance to the property line? So where's that water going to go? That's what happened to me. Somebody put in a new driveway, and the next year I had ducks and a huge lake. So that's a problem. Another problem is enforcement, because the city actually paid to study my problem and prove that the neighbors were giving me water, but then somehow it's a civil matter. Even though 619 says city, Code 619 says the city takes responsibility for enforcing the code. So I don't know what you're doing on that master plan about launching the education awareness campaign. Sustainability, number 12, was one. 13, require residential properties to redirect all downspouts to vegetated areas, but not to impervious areas. My neighbor's running the whole rear of their property water, rear of house water, onto their driveway, and I guess it just doesn't matter. It's my civil issue. So we have to take this seriously. I have met so many people since. I met a woman who said, you wouldn't believe you could get PTSD from water issues. And my daughter was standing there, she goes, oh, we know you can. We know you can. I've met people too. We're getting like the cat in the hat scenario where things just, the red dot gets pushed from house to house. One of my neighbors got sick of having the city, trying to get the city to enforce the neighbor who was giving them water. So they put in this expensive system to pump out the water. But guess what? Now they're sending that water out. It flows onto the neighbor's driveway in wintertime. So it's like water came from this house to this house to this house. I met another woman who, her neighbor was getting water problems behind their garage, so he raised his grade, and then she literally had a pile of mud on her back patio. So it went all the way across her yard. So another issue too is when citations are issued, how about keeping records of them? Because citations were issued to my neighbors. And then when I FOIA'd to find out what happened, they're like, oh, they're closed, but we don't have any record of them. So, I mean, I used to be in the business world. That doesn't fly in the business world. You have to keep record of what happened. So also when you issue citations, don't just give them a blank one. It should be addressed with their name and address so there's a record of it. When I asked for copies of the citation, it was just a general all-purpose letter. And I said, well, then who did it go to? And then so they print out a map and kind of highlight, well, it went to this person, this person. And then my neighbors told me they didn't even know they got one. So you need some better record keeping on it. And hopefully we're going to do something. Because I see it all the time. I talk to people like, oh, they're going to spend $5,000 to $15,000 to fix somebody else's water problem. In another cost of it all, not to mention the ruin, like I lost 6 arborvitaes, whoever was talking about it, is the ill will. Because now there's like, we would have been fine neighbors, but now there's like, oh, she's the angry lady with the pump, in the backyard. And this is the one, she said, well, our garage was flooding, so what were we going to do? I'm like, well, don't give it to me.
Exactly.
Yeah. You spent all this money with Noack and Frous, and then they purposely didn't detail the house that was causing the problem. It was just a ridiculous study, but there was enough data there. So like, don't spend the money if you're not gonna enforce it. Code 619 says the city takes responsibility for the code. So if you're not allowed to put your downspout on a driveway, get it somewhere else. I should be able to call and say, hey, they're doing this and it's causing more water for me. Boom, it should be over with. I shouldn't be told it's a civil issue. So, thank you for It's not good for neighborhoods. It does, it's PTSD.
Yes, it is.
Get anxious every time it rains.
Yeah. I'd recommend a listening study with the neighbors who've been affected. So maybe you guys can review the code, review the citation process. I don't know if you got scared by that lawsuit over the driveway, but it needs to be something.
Any other comments?
Hi, good evening. Howard Moroff, 10815 Elgin. Comments are relative to a lot of discussion that happened at the prior city council meeting. I would like to.
And have the doors open, sorry.
Oh, you have that moment?
Yeah,
Sorry.
we do.
So, first, thank you to council members for allowing us to address council. And this is relative to the public use and potential public use policy guidelines that we hope to see here soon. First.
Could you keep your, that's actually on the agenda.
Oh.
So could you address that when we get to that item, please?
It absolutely shall.
Thank you.
Hold on.
Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to the next item of business, which is a public hearing. This is a matter of receiving public input on the proposed 2025-26 city budget in accordance with Chapter 9, Section 8 of the city charter. Do we have any public comments regarding the proposed budget? Seeing none, we're going to close the public hearing and move on to our regular items of business. First item is a presentation of the Parks and Recreation master plan that's in process of starting here, and we have Paul Erbil from McKenna to make a presentation. Tracy, did you want to start, or right to Paul?
We can just turn it right over to Paul. He's got all the good stuff that you guys want to see.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. We put this presentation into your packets. There's a chunk of slides. I plan to move through them fairly quickly, but feel free to stop me at any time if you'd like to talk about anything specifically. So I'm Paul Erbil from McKenna, who the city has engaged to update the 5-year Park and Rec master plan. Today, I would just like to take you through our approach to this plan, talk about our plan for community engagement to take in input, formulate that plan, and talk about what's going to happen next. There's a team of people. You will most often see myself or Jane Dixon, who happens to be a city staff alumnus. So we, on our team, are very familiar with the city. The reason for doing a Park and Rec plan, there's lots of reasons. Primarily why communities do them is because the Department of Natural Resources requires that they're done at least every 5 years to keep communities eligible for grant assistance, which is a compelling reason to do it. But it's also a great opportunity to check in with the community about Park and Rec needs and really make sure that this plan is authentic to the community current and reflects what the priorities of everyone are. So these plans are used for that list of things on the left, to communicate the community's values, to take stock of existing facilities, to determine where further study needs to happen, and very importantly, to make the city eligible for grants. The plan, when it is finished, will not obligate any funding or set anything in stone or create an inflexible policy. The idea is to, at this moment in time and for the next 5 years, here is what we heard we needed, and here are the steps that we're going to take to achieve those and meet those needs. The DNR has this set of the requirements to make a DNR eligible plan are fairly prescriptive. We will do that. That is sort of the base level of service. I'll talk about a couple of things where we sort of dive a little deeper, but no matter what, when we are finished, we will produce for you a plan that can be approved by the DNR and registered as such. The idea, as I said, is to look 5 years at potential capital improvements related to parks and recreation. Oftentimes during this process, we get feedback and ideas, and the city has aspirations that go longer than 5 years, so we'll also provide a longer-term action plan to sort of set up the next cycle and give the next time it's updated something to check in on. The city's last park and rec plan was highly focused on maintenance. Now that we understand that there is perhaps some ambition for some capital projects, what we understand the charge here to be is to make sure that those capital projects reflect public desire and are aligned so that they can be in the adopted plan, as I said, and then potentially eligible for grant funding. Here's just a list of potential grants that either directly or indirectly the city could pursue as a result of a registered park and recreation plan. So there's a few areas of technical analysis that we do to set up what questions we ask the public, and also to make recommendations just based on data and based on where the city is currently. We analyze against the National Recreation and Park Association issues benchmarks for communities of all sizes about the provision of certain amenities. We do this sort of investigation, and in the beginning, what we're doing is trying to seek the problem and understand where there might be improvements made. We approach that investigation through the public input, through these sorts of analyses, and then synthesize them all together to come up with the final recommendations. Accessibility is very important, both to the DNR for best practice and to make sure that the parks are functioning for everyone in the community. The DNR requires that there's a 5-point scale. So as part of the scope of the work, we'll go out to every park and catalog and assess on this 5-point scale where accessibility is currently and where opportunities for improvement might be. We try to, since we're spending that time out in the parks, we try to be even more rigorous than that and look for every opportunity we can find to get listed opportunities to make the parks more accessible and more usable for the entire community. This is an image of a plan we did in Birmingham. We also strive to set up and leave the community with a plan that that identifies where parks and recreation amenities are accessible by walking. In a city that's built out as Birmingham is, as Huntington Woods is, this perhaps might not result in any new park space being created, but we segment that data and try to provide useful information for capital decisions. For example, if in the future amenities for kids move off of 11 Mile and move inward to the parks, our ambition is to provide you with some logic to where those amenities might be most usefully placed, and also set programming for the future to match the needs of the populations there. We also investigate aspects of inclusion in parks and look for opportunities to incorporate in universal design. So as part of that physical assessment that we do, and as part of the recommendations we will provide, looking through this lens of integrating accessible features, making structures and facilities accessible for all ages, talking about things like multisensory engagement and social interaction. Especially in the beginning of this process, we will be looking to identify opportunities that will then vet with the community and with the staff and eventually with you about where things could be improved. And then also, as a matter of course, we will investigate during that facility analysis opportunities to, parks are really good places to align and address any community's sustainability goals. So we will seek those opportunities as well. We are proposing primarily over the summer community engagement, a series of community engagements. This is the general timeline starting in mid-June. We will be touring parks with citizens who are interested. We will set up virtual engagement so that we can collect input from people that cannot make in-person events. We will set up at the summer concert at Scotia Park to intake comments and have some exercises there to leverage the fact that people will already be out. We plan a workshop at the Recreation Center in July. And the idea is to have a draft available for public comment between mid-August and mid-September. Ideally, then the plan will be ready for adoption in mid-September. Just so quick, this is an example of a plan we did in Royal Oak, that virtual engagement. We try to mirror any in-person engagement we do so that we can reach as many people as possible. We find this to be a very effective way, again, because it doesn't require that someone comes out to a meeting or happens to see us at the pop-up events. As long as they're aware that it exists, then they can provide their comments. There can be some dialogue about those comments, and we have used it to great success. We planned for this one, we are planning to do guided park tours on a bus, two tours. We plan to take RSVPs since we are planning to drive people around. One half of the city, the east parks, and then the west. We're working to get those dates finalized, and we'll be advertising those events soon. I mentioned the concert in the park and the workshop. The idea is to be comprehensive and to give as many people as many opportunities to provide input about this plan as possible. We will be attending these meetings. I'm here tonight. We'll be at the Park and Rec Board later this month, and then, as I said, our ambition is to bring this back to you for adoption on September 16th, but it will be run through all these other committees, and we will have engagement at all those meetings as we go. Our very next steps are that Park and Rec Advisory Board meeting. By June 6th, we plan to launch the online engagement hub, and those park tours we're aiming for mid-June. That's all I had to introduce you to the process, but I'm happy to answer any questions or discuss anything if you'd like.
Should I have any questions?
Mr. Mayor, just wanted to make sure that where you're planning to be present at the summer concert and have a pop-up there at Scotia Park, that there will be accommodations made if things get rained out. Oftentimes, events get canceled, it's an outdoor space, that there will be a plan B.
Yes.
And then also, I know this came up 5 years ago, the last time we did one of these, making sure that any online hub or surveys or online tool for feedback, that there is outreach done to community members that maybe are not online or not tech savvy. So whether it's run through the library, that there's assistance given that way, through the computers that they have available, just that there is an opportunity for community members who are perhaps less tech savvy to provide their feedback as well.
Absolutely, thank you.
And we'll actually bring, if the concert, if the weather's bad, we bring the concert indoors at the rec center. We would do the same with the pop-up. It could just come right in the rec center with the program we still offer.
Thanks.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I have a question. The bus tours, what does that do? What is the purpose of that, and how many people are going? How does it inform your research?
We're still working out the logistics of the capacity of those, but the idea is that we originally proposed them as walking tours because of the scale. We're going to do them on a bus. The idea is that if people are interested, they can ride along and provide input to every park that they have things to say. So instead of trying to meet people at every park, we would try to make that feedback efficient and go and visit parks with whoever is interested, and just sort of do a tour of the park, present what the last plan said was the future of that park, and solicit input about what's working or what's not.
Okay, thank you.
If you get an overwhelming response of people that want to participate, will you book additional tours of the
Then,
same
yeah, I think we'll have to book it again, or come up with alternative ways. We won't turn people away who want to participate.
All right. Thank you very much. We're definitely looking forward to hearing more and getting involved.
Great, thank you.
Public participation. Can we ask questions from the floor?
You make a comment, please address it to the commission.
It looks like a very fine plan, very capable people doing it. As you heard, there's a big concern in this community about stormwater management. So I'm particularly interested in your issue of sustainability. Your predecessor plan, which was rejected by the city for the parks, included a lot of new parking. They did not say anything about permeable surfaces. They did not say anything about stormwater runoff. I would hope that you would consider that carefully as you develop your plans as well. Thank you.
Any other comments?
You could do a
Okay.
bike tour, too. You could have people ride their bikes to all the parks.
That could be a possibility
You have a
along
bus
with
for
the
some
bus.
people.
Because we'll know which parks we're gonna be going to. And that if people, or if they wanna meet at a certain park that we're going to be at, because it's right by their house, they could do that too.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 2. Is a discussion regarding the Huntington Woods City Facilities Draft Policy. I just want to talk about the policy as it sits right now a little bit before we open this up for discussion. The policy, we didn't receive, the commission didn't receive until late last week. And it is not as concise and as short and as we were hoping it would be. So, in talking to the city manager, we're gonna take a little different approach to this policy over the course of the next couple of weeks. And ask Andrew to work with our city attorney to develop a shorter, more concise document, possibly separating the parks or outdoor arenas from the inside room rentals. And once he feels that he's got a document that will be more suited for what we're looking for, he'll disseminate that to each of the members of the city commission. We can make comments back to you, and hopefully we'll have a document that we can share with the public by the next commission meeting and have a meaningful discussion about it. At this point in time, we're just not there. It's not that, I assure you that we haven't heard all of your comments and thoughts and are taking them into consideration. We have. But we're just not ready to discuss it any further here. I think we'll get a lot further with you two working hard at it daily here over the next few weeks so we can get a document that we can start considering. So with that said, I am going to open this up to public participation. If anyone has a comment, they're more than welcome to make a comment. But please know that we know we've heard what you said in the past and would appreciate it if you just didn't repeat the same comments again. We're certainly taking all those into consideration. So please come forward if you have any comments you'd like to make this evening.
Again, Howard Moroff, 10815 Elgin. Thank you for that up-to-date information on the process so far. That's very encouraging to hear. I actually was able to watch the last city council meeting, so some of these comments are frankly a personal reaction to some of the things that I saw and heard and wish the city to consider as you're navigating through the policy or the draft policy. First and foremost, we're not advocating for restrictions on freedom of speech, freedom of association, or policies along those lines. All we're really asking for is the city to do exactly what I think you're in the process of doing, which is to establish clear policies and guidelines pertaining to access and use of all of our city facilities by the residents of Huntington Woods. Specifically, the policies and guidelines need to be clear, they need to be unambiguous, and they need to be administered in an equitable manner by an individual specifically designated by the commission and responsible to our city manager with the assistance of our city attorney if need be, and ultimately responsible to our city council, our commissioners. I actually believe that in establishing and enforcing a uniform set of policies and guidelines covering the time, manner, and use of city facilities will be most responsive to all of our residents, regardless of which perspective you may come from. I take pride in the diversity of this community, and along with that pride, it remains incumbent on our city's commissioners, our leadership, to ensure our community remains a safe, comfortable, welcoming, and secure city that all residents can enjoy. And this applies to all of our residents, regardless of whether they're vocal and demonstrative or wish to enjoy our city on a very quiet, reserved basis. As a small city, we have really limited resources. Love to be able to dedicate more resources to flood and water and parks and what have you, but we're a small city, which means that our resources should really be dedicated exclusively to the benefit and for the benefit of our residents specifically. After all, we're the ones who actually fund the city through our taxes. I believe we're actually all seeking the same result, which is the ability for all Huntington Woods residents to be able to fairly, equitably, and reasonably use the facilities that the city has available to us, whether they're within facilities, buildings, or in the public parks area, in accordance with a well-drafted, well-managed, and candidly well-enforced set of policies and guidelines. A couple of other thoughts that I feel it important to sort of comment on the basis of what I've heard, candidly, some people approach and comment of. Number one, duration of being a city resident. I'm a proud city resident. And I'm delighted that many residents here have been here for decades and decades and decades. But relative to city policies and enforcement and such, it's an irrelevant fact. Whether one has been a city resident here for 1 day, 1 week, or 30 years, we're all entitled to the same rights and privileges and have the same responsibilities to the city. So duration here is not necessarily a highly relevant factor. I am no more or no less entitled to the same benefits and have the same responsibility as any other resident does here in the city. Also, during public comments, I've heard many residents declare their religious affiliation, attempting to cloak some citizens' concerns regarding city policies governing access and use of city facilities in some manner as relating to one's religious affiliation actually obfuscates the clear and straightforward request of the city commissioners. The request to establish clear and unambiguous guidelines applicable to all residents, regardless of race, color, religion, or any other criteria. I do not believe that one's religion is in any way relevant to the consideration of this type of policy. I won't summarize where I think we need to be, because I think I'll be responsive and to the process that is ongoing, and I thank the city commissioners and city leadership for doing so. But I do believe that by doing so quickly, effectively, and with a policy that's clear, is enforceable, is responsive to our city manager and the city council, that we can all look at from a safety, security, comfort perspective, will serve all of our residents very, very well. Thank you very much for allowing this subject to continue in an effective manner. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Hi, Lori Lisi, 8775 Lincoln Drive. I've been here continually. I'm going to try to say different stuff tonight. I guess my biggest question is just about the sharing of the policy before, I've raised this before you guys vote on it. So I guess my question is, will the policy, once it's done, be in the packet so that we can review it before we come to the meeting and our comments can be applicable to what that policy is? But then I also have heard concerns about, focusing on our residents in terms of the room use policy. And as you may know, I also, besides being a resident, represent the Democrats of South Oakland County. And we are a group, our membership is drawn from 4 cities, Berkeley, Royal Oak Township, Oak Park, and Huntington Woods. And I do believe that having a group that brings in the diversity we find in the communities around us is beneficial to democracy, is beneficial to good thinking about policy, and it has been the policy of the Democrats of South Oakland County to split our meetings between the 4 cities. It also allows people in our group sometimes not to have to travel so far. So when we're in Royal Oak Township, we get a lot more people from Royal Oak Township coming to those meetings. And when we're in Berkeley, we get a lot more Berkeley people. So I do believe there should be some connection to the city. I'm not asking that, some group completely unrelated to the city not have some privilege to use our facilities. But I would like our club to have access because it does include, a number, probably more than our share from those 4 cities of Huntington Woods residents. So I don't know what the policy will be, but I would like it to still be welcoming to groups that include residents and people outside the city. Thank you.
Thank you. I should have stated in my opening remarks that the policy will certainly, once it's developed, to be available as part of the packet that goes out prior to the city commission meeting. And at the June meeting, it will be discussed, but it won't be voted on. We will hopefully all consent that this is a document that we agree to, and we will give the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, the Library Advisory Board, the Anti-Racism Committee, as well as residents in general, an opportunity to speak to it, not only in June, but in July before we adopt it. Any other comments?
Justin Kosky, 10155 LaSalle. Just to that particular point you were just mentioning, all of us here in the room, I think, know how to find the packet. I'm not sure the last time the commission sent an email blast how to find it, so that citizens who might be interested in this discussion could read about the policy. So maybe a reminder in a couple weeks. Thanks.
Stack, 13108 Talbot. Just one question for the city attorney. A few years back when you were in law school, did you take a course in constitutional law?
Okay, sir, please, Hal,
You can't answer
address
that?
your comments to me.
Can't answer that question?
No.
It's a shame. Next time, law school. Yeah.
But nice. Where'd you go to law school?
Okay. Enough.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, any other comments out there? Seeing none, we're going to move on to item number 3, which requires a motion to adopt the city budget for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2025, and ending on June 30th, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Ethan, would you like to make a comment on changes?
A real quick overview. We made a couple modifications since our budget workshop last month. Next slide. But we're just going to do a quick overview for posterity here. So our budget continues with current staffing levels. The only change is that we are eliminating one custodial position at the rec center and switching to a private company for cleaning services. Our expected yearly wage increase is consistent with union contracts. All of our union contracts expire in 2027, so we're mid-contract for every.
But, excuse me.
Hold on.
Excuse me, can we stop conversations in the meeting? Thank you.
Proposed budget calls for stable levels of service, but budget constraints are forcing the city to trim its investment in capital improvements and large ticket items for all departments. Next slide. Taxable value has increased 4.74% this year with a slight millage rollback, or Headley rollback, I should say. Overall millage decrease is 4.3%, and that's a lot of that is due to debt being paid off and rolling off our obligations. Next slide, please. We're contributing, the required contribution is $1,186,428, and our expected liability, which we are going to contribute, is about $450,000 more than that. Our pension system is 72% funded as of 12/31/23. Our 12/31/24 report will come out in July. And we are going to be contributing around $320,000 in defined contribution payments to employees. As you can see, we've made good progress on the pension contribution levels and funding levels since 2018. Next slide, please. Pay-as-you-go for current retirees, we pay about $340,000 in retiree health benefits, including $270,000 towards our liability for OPEB. Our current liability for OPEB is about $2.2 million. This is a large positive change. We've made great progress in the last 4 years on that, 21% to 65%. Next slide, please. Our water and sewer rates are increasing 6%. This is in conjunction with SACWA going up 5.6%. Water rates, water bills pay for water usage and also capital improvements. Rates have been 3% for a while, but SACWA was under I think it was like a 7-year promise to keep rates under 3%. That's done this year, so that's going up. So we're expecting larger increases for the next few years. Our contract with the Oakland County Water Resources Commission is typically 3%. That's budgeted. Sewer repair projects, we're really trying to invest and try to stay ahead of rear yard sewer issues, but we will be needing alternative funding sources to keep up with maintenance and modernize water and sewer lines throughout the city. Next line, please. We are doing one full sewer and pavement reconstruction, Newport from Borgman to Ludlow, and we are repaving Scotia from 11 Mile to Lincoln. Next slide, please. Capital expenditures. We are going to, we always try to budget for computer replacements for employees, and then emergency equipment for public safety, And we are also outfitting the new fire truck this year, so that's another 35 grand, and a new camera system as well for security purposes, as well as we're getting new tractors for plowing sidewalks, because that is a big priority for residents and the commission. And we also, with the help of some extra men's club funding, we are going to put in some fencing in Reynolds Park. Next slide, please. We're replacing the oldest fire truck, and it's coming this summer. We're contributing $350,000 for down payment. Total cost is around $700,000. Financing is 50 grand a year for 10 years at 5.34%, which is a pretty competitive rate. Next slide, please. So modifications that we've made since the budget workshop, I did add back in subsequent year CIP projects for parks, but I would expect that as the commission thinks about the master plan that we're doing with McKenna, that may change. We're taking out the anti-racism programming line item in the rec fund to better align with holistic view on our anti-racist ideals throughout the city. The whole budget is dedicated to that, not just one line item. I had to adjust sanitation fund revenue to account for a Headley Road back. We do have to put in about $100,000 of general fund money to stabilize the fund balance for the sanitation fund, and a correction of clerical errors or added language to provide neatness and clarity for the general public. Next slide, please. The end.
Okay. Any questions?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to make a comment. I want to, thank the city administration for their work on the budget. One thing I might suggest is that, we've done a very good job of bringing us where we need to be on the defined benefit and the OPEB retiree health care funding liabilities, and we are looking at putting additional money into that again. But I would maybe suggest holding off on that, and don't immediately pre-fund that in case there are some capital things that pop up as part of the parks plan, where maybe that's a potential source of funding where we don't, overfund by 350,000, maybe only 150,000 because we decide to allocate 200,000 to something that comes out of this plan. So that's a potential source of money we're not required to contribute over and above, and our funding level certainly is more than adequate for a good bond rating. I'm just thinking out loud that keep that in mind. Don't send the money in at July 1. Wait, let's see how the fiscal year progresses is my thought, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just want to say thank you to Ethan and to Andrew for their hard work on this budget. I see some of the changes that were made. I know, as we had talked about before, roads, sewers, parks, public safety, those are the bread and butter of what we do and how we serve the community and our programs as well. And so I think Commissioner Roselle made a really good point. If we do have that flexibility while still being able to retain our good ratings on the retirement payments, it makes a lot of sense because, with a park project, a lot goes a long way. And I think those things are, as we've heard as a body in the last couple of years, those are really important to the community. So thank you for taking the consideration.
Any public comments? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We have a budget. Item number 4 is authorizing the collection of the tax collection administration fee in accordance with Public Act 503. We have a motion.
So moved. Second.
This is just an annual resolution that we make every year, pretty much standard business practice. Any public comments? Comments or questions from the commission? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5 is a matter of authorizing the city treasurer to transfer the delinquent water bill balances for 2024-25 to the summer 2025 tax roll of the city of Huntington Woods in accordance with Chapter 19, Section 2.87 of the city code.
So moved.
Second.
Comments or questions? Any public comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. City manager's report.
Just some updates with the road construction. Newport will start now, May 28th. As you know, it's sewer and roads, so that's gonna be a long process. They're gonna start the demolition on the 28th, so all those residents will be aware of what to do in regards to parking their vehicles, where to put the trash, water issues when we shut the water off. They'll be notified personally, so they'll be well aware from day to day when the process moves on. Also, the Scotia project, along with the rec center project, will start on June 16th, which we were able to delay 2 weeks to allow the children out of Burton School, which was very helpful. That should not affect pool operations at the rec center. You should be able to access the parking lot still there at Hart and Talbot during different times, depending on where they are in that project. That is just a mill and fill. That will not take long, maybe 4 weeks at the most. That road can be driven on since there's no sewer, so that should not be an issue. We did get a report back from TIA in regards to the Traffic Association, which I requested. I thought it was more appropriate to move the stop sign from Boardman, the four-way stop, to Talbot, and then there'll be a two-way stop on Boardman, which has less traffic. What that'll do is, as you know, the library is the crossing, so it's better to have the cars stop at Talbot when they cross instead of stop at Boardman and get up to speed, then have to slow down at Talbot. So Talbot will then become a four-way stop, which will be a lot safer and a lot better for residents and the children at the crossing. So TIA agreed with that, moving that stop sign. That'll happen after, obviously, the road construction. I just wanted to bring up, I know it's early, but I just want people to be prepared for the 4th of July parade route change. It is on our website. It will still start on Salem and go to Wyoming and then to Boardman. But it'll only go down Boardman to Meadowcrest, then it'll go south on Meadowcrest to Lincoln. So there's 2 streets of Boardman to Scotia, the parade will not go down those streets. So I just want to get it out as often as we can so those residents, that they may have parties just for that reason, to know that the parade will not go by their homes on Boardman. Also, as far as public safety, we implemented, which is online, the new overnight parking website, which is very user-friendly. You'll access the forms go on our website, go to public safety, go to forms, and it'll say request for overnight parking. It's self-explanatory, place in your car, in that information, the plate, in your address and who you are. If you have any issues with it, it's not a problem. You call public safety, we will enter that for you and we walk you through it that way. But most people have been successful with doing this, so you won't have to call it in, and you can do it at any time. You don't have to do it when we're open or when somebody's at the front desk. So I think so far it's been received very well, and I think that's going to be a lot easier for the residents to leave their cars out. It does restrict you just like it does, so you still will only have your 3 days that you can leave that car out there, so it does monitor that. Then the officers, as they drive the streets, can enter that in their computers in their scout cars to see if the cars are allowed to be on the street or not. And, the last thing would be, Edison did start at least putting the pole in front of public safety for the traffic light. That is going to be a very long process. It still isn't expected to be finished till October. But that is going to be huge for us on 11 Mile Road, to slow down the traffic on 11 Mile Road, to allow people to come off of Mortensen. It's going to be allow people to ride their bikes safely across that street, walk across that street. I look out that window every day at public safety, and it truly scares me to see people going across, especially now with this heavy traffic. It's scary to see somebody try to cross that street on a bike right now. Because traffic's heavy. Our officers are out there daily. We put scout cars out there, the speed trailer out there. But as you know, during this construction, we have a lot of traffic there. So we're hitting that street real hard, trying to slow down that traffic and to keep everybody safe. And that's it.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the city council?
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to point out, I want to thank the city manager. At the prior meeting, I had talked about the road construction projects, like he mentioned, and the tree situation and how some of the trees were just absolutely decimated. And within I don't know, 3 or 4 days, he had reported back to me that the removal of trees for convenience during these construction projects will come to an end, and that any tree that has a disruption of its root base of less than 30% will remain and be evaluated for a 2-year period to see if it does survive the construction. And so we, as a result, within about 3 or 4 days, he completely solved the problem on our behalf, and as many mature trees will remain during these road construction projects as possible, like we've literally been begging for years. So I want to personally thank you for resolving that as quickly as you did and listening to what the commission had to say and carrying that out, because I know my colleague shared that thought as well, and so I want to thank you. Also, a number of other issues that I've referred over, I just want to share with my colleagues, have been resolved almost immediately with very positive resident feedback. So thank you for the work you're doing. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I just have a question if I can. So now in this second or third go around at this, these complaints about the water runoff, this is not a news story, but in recent years, what used to be rain is now referred to in the vernacular as a rain event. I mean, we are getting some powerful rain storms where an enormous amount of water is coming down. You see it. Golf courses, it maybe it's not seem like a fair example, but golf courses are seeing it big time. I mean, if you go by Rackham, talk about lakes. I mean, it's a huge problem, and I would suggest, you know, that while it may not be the cause of all of it, that it is impermissible to drain your water onto your neighbor's property. Per se, that's the code, and there has been cases, there has been some litigation between homeowners over this kind of a problem. But I do think, given the multiplicity of the comments about it, that it does warrant a closer look by DPW or by our city engineers with respect to these problems. I've talked to Hank Berry about it, but I just think it's just like these rain events are happening with greater frequency. I think it's a problem that needs to be, if it can't be addressed, it needs to be assessed so that people understand what more likely than not is the source of the problem. I mean, when houses are built, they're built to code, there's inspections, there's all kinds of follow-up, and, you know, anything you do in this city gets that kind of scrutiny. So I'm not quite as willing to say, well, this house is higher than, you know, the ground can be, there's a lot of things that can explain that, but I just think it'd be a good idea from the perspective of the public to get some assessment made of what's going on here, and see whether or not some of this can be ameliorated or completely eliminated, depending. If somebody's draining their water onto their neighbor's property, it's got to stop, period. Whether it's by vegetation, I don't care. I mean, you can't do that. It's a form of trespass. So I would just ask that we do that.
Absolutely. And when I heard some of those comments, if it is a violation, it should be, it should have been enforced. If that's what was causing it, or if that was happening. So we'll definitely, I'll talk to Hank tomorrow in regards to a lot of these issues that I heard tonight. Unfortunately, the concern, like you said, with the heavy rains, is we have to be real careful too, because in the past, they've allowed stormwater to go in sanitary sewer, and the issue is for those homes where permeabilized sewers now is force that water in the backyards.
Right.
If we were to allow it to go on the sanitary sewer instead of having a flooded backyard, you're gonna have sanitary water in your basement. So, but I totally agree, we need to do something, whether we look at some other forms of funding to help the residents, because a lot of this is back on the private property in the back. But for the gutters and all those, absolutely. If it's an ordinance violation, it needs to be addressed and needs to be enforced. Unfortunately, some of the homes, because I've driven around and looked at them too, some of it too, as you said, there are other reasons, but maybe when the homes were built, this house settled, the other house didn't, depending on the construction of the home. So when they were actually built, they were at level, and now all of a sudden, this home is down, this one's up. But you're right, this is definitely something that we need to try to find some other funding because of the heavy rains that we're seeing that we didn't see years ago either. So I agree, I will definitely work hard to do that. I'll work with the city engineers and Hank Berry on it.
Appreciate that.
Yep.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'm gonna ditto what Commissioner Roselle said about the trees, not just the construction of the roads, but just like the canopy question, right, that I asked you about within days. This is information that we've asked for before, and Andrew was able to put together a report for us pretty quickly. So really appreciate that and the customer service approach that you've taken throughout and opening up lunch hour to be available to our customers. I think that's really great too. On the stormwater issue, as you're doing the assessment, I think this is an issue that's not unique to Huntington Woods. We know that this is happening everywhere. I'd be very curious to know what other communities are doing. And maybe it is an ordinance, maybe it is enforcement, but maybe it's also education, right? We heard today from many case studies here that it's like, be a good neighbor. I think we want to be good neighbors here, but maybe it's just a lack of information, or how do I address this? Like, for example, I didn't know about the sanitation, routing of the water till the issue came up. So I think these are things that, I guess, to think broadly about what are the solutions, because this is going to continue to be a problem, but it's also not just, the city's total responsibility. Like, it's everybody's responsibility, because water doesn't know borders. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner comments?
Speaking of professionalism, as Groucho Marx once said, I'm standing up for her honor, which is more than she would ever do. But in the case of our city attorney, Matt, the mayor keeps me under a short leash here, but there is no justification for any member of the public to come in and ask our city attorney whether he took constitutional law. This problem that we've been wrestling with now for the last 5 months has consumed an enormous amount of time and effort on Matt's part, my part, and the city manager, and everybody's been involved. Our good neighbor, Mr. Shostak, is here. He's been an invaluable partner to the city with his input, but his input is respectful, considered, and thoughtful. And Matt Zaleski is a very fine lawyer, and I deeply resent any resident using that platform to come in and ask our retained city council if he took constitutional law. There's no cause for that. That's not the issue here. The issue here is getting a very complicated issue resolved with a very simple ordinance. We're trying. It's not that simple. Otherwise, it wouldn't take 5 months. There are lots of things to be balanced here, and we want to do it right. And I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it again. I do not want to be a news story. I do not want to be the subject of a lawsuit in the United States District Court claiming that we're violating the civil rights of any particular group or for any particular reason. I'm not interested in seeing that story on the news. And I'm a lawyer, I love litigation, but not when it involves the city of Huntington Woods. So we're doing everything we can to do this right. And Matt has been terrific. We don't agree yet on the policy, but it's coming. And we will have it, like the mayor said, it'll be here in June. And when it's here in June, people have a chance to comment on it. My guess is there shouldn't be a lot of disagreement about it, frankly, to be blunt. And when we get done with that meeting, it'll be a reading, and we'll try to pass it in July. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Roselle.
I just want to thank the folks for coming out. I know that we didn't really get into the policy like we thought, but we got it late, and I think the way we're pivoting on it is appropriate to give our two professionals an opportunity to whittle it down, and I promise it will come back, and in due time we will take all the public comment and get it where it needs to go. So we've heard you, and it will be reflected in the policy and the final product. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'm gonna put time back on everyone's calendars and say thank you.
The only comment I would like to make, Mr. Mayor, is that in light of the fact that the Parks and Rec Advisory Board is meeting next week, and one of the things that we discussed last month in regards to the policy was what is a reservable space in our city parks. And I would hope that they could find some time to, along with the Parks and Rec Administration, to think through what are the spaces that are reservable, knowing that, you know, other cities have pavilions or sets of, you know, picnic tables, but that, you know, is a park itself reservable versus just a section of that park. So just in light of the calendar, I wanted to make sure that that was addressed by the Parks and Rec Advisory Board.
Thank you. Just a reminder that Thursday is the new residence reception, so hope to see everyone at that event. And any new residents that have moved into the city in the last year that haven't signed up yet, you still have time to email and make a reservation if you happen to be bored and watching the city commission meeting tonight. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Your call, Ally, on who made that motion.